All right, so I just finished editing this video that you're about to watch, other than taking this recording and putting it in the front, of course. But I wanted to just throw in a quick hi and just say that this is the first video that I've put together, and it's a little rough around the edges. I'm going to timestamp things so you can get there faster. But yeah, this is it. First video, I'm going to show you how to make this cup. Well, first I'm going to show you how to make this rib, and then in part 2, I'm going to show you how I made this cup using this rib and 4 others. Also, at the end, I'll be talking about how I'm going to give this cup away. So it's the first day of Insika, and I'm not there talking to everybody 4 days at a time. And so I thought I'd start working on this. So I'm not going to post this, maybe ever, but I'm going to, if I do post it, it wouldn't be earliest till next week because I have some video footage that I want to get to walk through this project that I did in class. I've been thinking about doing YouTube for a little bit because I honestly don't think that enough people in the field take advantage of the platform. And I think that's to the detriment because there's a lot of people going there to learn things, and they're learning a lot of how-to without learning a lot about why you might do something. And of course, I'm now starting with sort of this how-to project that I did in my advanced wheel class. But I would like to talk about my work, talk about the story, the ideas behind the work, and try to produce some videos that are a little bit more interesting than your standard artist statement. So I've been thinking about this for a while, and if I don't just like start doing it, I think I'll just keep thinking about doing it for a little while because, you know, I've also prioritized working in the studio. Anyway, so yeah, this is me getting used to talking to the camera. Here we are. So what we're going to actually do now that I've done blabbering on about starting this channel is making this rib, 3D printed rib, to make essentially a cup on the wheel. So I liked this project. I saw it on Instagram. I think I saw it from Jeff Campana, who saw it from somebody else. I don't remember who. There's a chain, so it's not my idea, but I think it's a good idea, and more people should see it because I think one thing that we're trying to do is find ways to integrate technology into the classroom, and we often think about it as this daunting thing, like you need a whole nother class, but there's really simple ways that you can do a project that utilizes the technologies that we have that aren't too daunting, and it can just be a simple way to do something and tie it together to what you're already doing in the class. So that's what this is. This is a rib that was 3D printed, and that rib that is then used to custom make this, like the clay is already shrunk, so custom make this profile on every time so I could sit down and make this cup as a set. So it's a pretty handy tool, pretty straightforward to do. And so I'm going to walk you through that process. But one thing that, it's not a bad form, but one thing that I was thinking to try different is instead of just making the profile and designing it there, is to take one of the cups that I already like, that I've sat down at the wheel and, produced a profile that varies from it's from that session, and then pick, because often that's how potters will work. You'll have a session where you're varying the form a few different ways, and then you'll get this profile. And so I like this profile on this cup better than I like the one that I ended up producing. So I want to get a picture of this and then bring that into Illustrator and get the profile from this specific cup. I'll have to scale it up because this has already been fired to cone 10, but yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing I need is a screenshot of just this cup. Why don't I do that with the overhead thing, so I can use that too. Okay, so we've got now the image from the overview, and we just need to get that into the computer. All right, so yeah, the next step is to bring that into Illustrator, and we have to create a path that we're going to use to then send to 3D rendering software. So let's get into the computer. I'm just going to open up a new file, and I'm just going to do A4 because that's like a standard piece of paper. We don't really need anything bigger than that. That's just going to work. I'm just going to use the defaulted details and hit create, and that'll open up a new document. Then I need to import a photo image. Open, from downloads, which is where I took that picture from the overhead view, and I've got that opened and it's really big, so I'm going to minus that out. It doesn't lock your aspect ratio if you're just dragging it, so I forgot I have to hold shift and drag that down to lock the aspect ratio. All right, so my photograph didn't come in. I tried to keep it as horizontal as possible, but I didn't come in straight up and down, so I want to just rotate this a little bit to get that. So I'm using the select tool up in the upper left hand corner, coming over to the corner until the arrow turns into that little curve, and just rotating it to get it too far. See the rulers on here, drop a guide down so I can see what straight is. It's actually pretty good. And then I'm gonna come up to layers in the top right hand corner, and then I'm going to add a new layer because I do not want to create my path on the layer of the photograph that I just brought in. I only need the path, and then I'll eventually delete this photo. So what I want is a rib. So the rib is going to occupy the negative space of the cup. So to do that, I'm going to use the pen tool to start anchoring points. I'm going to zoom in here a little. So I'm clicking and then holding and dragging to get that curve. And I want to, I don't want to just create a whole bunch of anchor points. So I'm clicking to produce the anchor points. And I'd rather do fewer points, but when the path changes direction is where I need an anchor point. So the peaks and the valleys. I need to zoom in a little bit more there. I think I need to move that one. So I switched to the precision select tool to just kind of make some mild adjustments here. And these handles help adjust the curve. And I mean, you can rough it out first, which is go back to the pen tool. I'll just drop these in. So I re-clicked the end of the path to make sure I was starting where I left off. And then this one peaks not until like right here, and drag that out. And then here, oops, I'm gonna have to make adjustments to that. And then here. So one thing that I learned, it wasn't a good idea to try to get the rib so it dealt with the foot area, because when you're pushing against the clay into the rib, you can sort of guide the clay into that shape really well from the interior also. But when you're trying to do the bottom, there's so much clay there that it's resisting so hard the pressure you're applying, and it sort of messed things up a bit. And so it's better to just design it so that you're still, like you would throw. You don't throw your foot on. That's what trimming is for. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut the rib short here. So I'm going to bring it down to where the height needs to be for the foot and leave that material there. I'm just going to bring that straight down, and then that's going to be it. And I'm going to leave all that clay there. So it catches the bottom of the curve to identify it, but in here, but it's leaving all this clay to trim away later. So then I'm going to back out, and then I'm just going to create just a curved, like a standard curved rib. I'm going to bring it, I want to bring it over. I want to bring it over a little bit at the lip. Yeah, so that gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And I think I want to just a little bit whoops, wrong tool. Now I'm going to come back to that specific select tool. Whoops, I want to select just this anchor. And I'm going to pull this one out just a little bit. So it's a little rounder, more useful for a curved interior, for example. Oh yeah, I'll just give that a flat top. I want this. I want this bottom one to curve a little bit more, so I want this to be a curved edge, and so this, I actually wonder if I even need that. I wonder if I just use this one there. So I needed to just draw that. I want this anchor or that path to be straight, but I wanted to curve this other side. So I needed to draw that handle back down into that anchor point, and that's creating that's creating a much better curve. There we go. I'm not really paying attention to the size right now. I just need to get the proportions. So what I found was that Tinker Cad, this is where we're going to send this path to. It didn't really communicate very well the dimensions of the path, but if I have the proportions correct, I can scale it to what I need to print to in Tinker Cad, and then that sent the file to the print. I send it to the slicing software from there, and those communicated the size more effectively than from here to Tinker Cad. So I'm not worried about what dimensions the rib is currently at. Then I'm going to put that thumb, like the thumb hole to help hold the rib, right about here. I think that looks pretty good. Try to select both of those. It's not quite. And somebody's going to tell me in the comments how I could have drawn a shape much faster than tweaking this oval. And therein lies my, the shape tool here. I could have just done an ellipse, and that would have been faster. But there it is now. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of, I need to exit this isolation mode. I'm going to get rid of layer 1 because that was just there as a guide. Yeah, there's layer 1 is gone. Great, and so there's my rib shape. I don't have a stroke on there, so it's just currently the path information. And I don't think I need, I don't need a stroke yet. The Tinker Cad will bring in the path information and then just extrude it a little bit from there. So we're gonna do that. So save this, rib from cup. And I'm going to save it on my computer instead of the cloud. Yes, yes. Save it on my computer. And I want to save this as an SVG file. Rib from cup. Desktop. Because everything ends up on my desktop. Save. Hit OK. And then we're going to move into Tinker Cad. So I've already logged into my account. And the nice thing about Tinker Cad is it's free. So you can use, you can use it, and it's actually really good software to just start getting used to 3D rendering. It's not super powerful, but it's also not complicated, and it's easy to navigate. So I'm going to go to Tinker, 3D. Start tinkering. So in designs, here's a couple of the versions that I made already. I'm going to hit new 3D design. And here I'm going to import that SVG that I just saved on my desktop. Here's the rib from cup, SVG. I'm gonna open that and I'm gonna import it. And see, it's already like created dimensionality and it's really big, but we can resize that in here. So that's brought in. Usually it defaults to millimeters, so you want to go to your settings and change the units to inches, unless you're in Europe or any of the other countries that uses the most appropriate measurement system. But if you're in the US, inches it is. It'll give you a better understanding of how big it's going to be. And you know, if you're not able to sort of visualize, it's always helpful to keep a ruler or tape measure close to you when you're working on something like this, so you can really see like how many inches something is. And I'll want to compare it to the cup, because if you really needed to be, well, you know, I'm drawing from, you might not draw this information from a fired cup. You might just do it straight off the wheel, so you don't have to worry too much about calculating out the shrinkage. This is a porcelain. It's shrinking probably around 15%, so I could just scale that up. But you know, I can guess this. So this is measuring in at like 3.5 inches tall, and I like the size cup. I probably need to go up maybe an inch, maybe a little over an inch, to 4.5 inches. I'll do just over 4.5 inches of height on this. Should be pretty close. Close enough for what we're doing here. Cancel, and then, so that's already inches. So then I just want to measure this. So that I'm just used the measurement tool, the ruler tool, and clicked on the object, and so I can see all the measurements. And so I'm looking at this. So it's currently at 9 inches, 9.5, which is way too big. So I'm going to scale that down. I'm holding Shift again to lock the aspect ratio while I drag the corner down. And we're just going to get that to that 4.5, maybe just over 469. That should be good. And that would be the size. Then the other thing is the thickness. So if you print that rib too thick, so here's the rib, and you know, looking at this thickness, it's about 1/16 of an inch. And so that's I think that was 0.06, maybe 0.07. I gave it just a little extra thickness. It's hard to tell, like virtually, like how thick that is, but it's pretty thick right there. And if it's got too much of a wall there, you end up with more drag than you want while you're throwing, and it makes it challenging. So I'm going to come on here and just drop that down to 0.07. I'm just going to type that in and hit enter, and that'll give me a thickness that is more appropriate for a rib. If you wanted to get more involved too, you could adjust that in post printing. You could come in with a Dremel tool and angle that down with a Dremel to give you a nice sharp edge. But that is it. Now you're ready for sending this to your printer. All right, you watched to the end, or you just scrolled through really quickly to find out how you could get one of these cups. With the rib that I show you how to make in this first part, I made five cups with that rib, only 5. And I'm gonna be giving them away to people who subscribe and leave a comment on either this part, which is part 1, or the next video, part 2, which I'll be posting shortly. And anybody who subscribes and leaves a comment will be eligible to win one of these cups. And how it's going to work is I've put a number on the bottom of each of the 5, and if I get 1,000 subscribers, whenever that is, in the future, is when I will give this cup away, and so on and so forth. So this one has 2,000 written on the bottom, 3,000, 4,000, and 5,000 on the bottom. And I'm going to show you these at the end of the next video in more detail. You'll see them in the round, so hit subscribe. Oh my goodness. All right, so it's really strange talking to a camera. I need to get better at talking to a camera. And so the first step, just edit that out. The problem is I'm currently tethered to my lavalier mic because it wasn't charged. Might have to edit that too. All right, I'm gonna get back to this tomorrow.